Guys, I'm gonna ask you a question. What do you think about the old African tradition where a man was allowed to have 2, 3, 4 multiple wives as long as he was able to take care of them all equally? Now, I'll tell you guys, the lives on the ship is very, very fast, especially the relationships. You can meet someone in 3 days time, you would actually be married on the ship. Well, not particularly or officially married, but you could technically start living in the same cabin. What's up, guys? How you doing? Naboth-Lee here. Today we have a very, very special video for you. Now, I have been watching this movie on Netflix, and with everything that I've seen all around the world and me having to travel on the ship, worked on ships for years, it got me thinking, can relationships survive on a cruise ship? In fact, would you leave your home for 6 months to 8 months at a time and not want any affection? Leave that in the comments below. Welcome, and let's get started. When you are on a cruise ship, think about it like this. There's a lot of people that are in a cage, and that cage is packed. Now, it's gonna be very, very hard to avoid contact. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna be impossible. It's gonna be very hard to avoid contact. Now, with that said, the question of can a relationship survive on a cruise ship or not, it depends upon each individual. For example, you see, working on a cruise ship comes with a lot of pressure. Now, some people can handle that pressure and some people cannot handle that pressure. Some people needs others' emotional support for them to survive on the cruise ship, otherwise they do not. Some people needs a little bit of favors and extras for them to survive on the cruise ship, if you ask me. Now, with that said, let's take for example, if you are far, far away from your lover or your partner or your significant other, and you develop a relationship and you let her know that this is how you're feeling, would that be considered polygamy? Or would that be considered irresponsible? On cruise ships, I've seen so many things happen, things that you think might not even be possible. I've seen men dating women, I've seen women dating women, I've seen men dating men. It is exactly what happens in this world that we live, is exactly what happens on the cruise ship. But what really causes that? Sometimes it is the emotional distress. Now, because there's a lot of people in the same spot, it's very, very easy for someone to fall for someone else because everybody is in just one spot. So think of it as a little city, everybody packed, floating on the ocean. Now, if you talk about what I've seen personally, I have seen people that have left their homes. I will tell you, people that I think that they would never, ever cheat on their partner, or they would never move away from their relationship, but that happened on the ship. But I've also seen people that have strived to work hard and forget about everything else and go for the money, because at the end of the day, remember, when you go to a cruise ship, you are going there to look for money. You're going there to work. You are going there for the green bag boogie, which is a lot of money. Now, with that said, I've seen relationship where you see a person, a married person. How do you know it's a married person? They actually have a ring on them, be it it's a lady or be it it's a woman or be it whatever gender, as we have many genders going on these days. It doesn't matter, but I have seen people with rings dating other people that are not their husbands. Now, because the other people sees that, well, this person has a ring, and they still go on and date them. Of course, that person, of course, the lady or the husband that has a ring, they make it clear that they are actually married or they have a partner or significant other back home. The question then is, do they communicate with that person at home that I found another partner? Because the other person that's going for the married person knows that this person is actually belonging to someone. What would you call that? Would you call that cheating, or would you call that polygamy? And there are other instances as well where you see a person, they really become very clear to a girl. They would actually say, you know what, I like you, but I have a husband. I like you, but I have a wife back home. Now, it is up to that individual that is being approached for them to fall into that relationship. Like I said, some people will fall into the relationship simply because of some pressures or simply because they want to have favor. And then when it comes to relationships, sometimes it comes down to power. Now, I will say this is solely my opinion, and my company or whoever that I work for has no say in what I'm saying. Sometimes people get into those relationships with power. We have what we call the officers, and we have the higher ranking people on the job. So if you're, for example, I'm going to use this because this happens a little bit more on the ship. So if you're a lady and you're struggling with your day-to-day job, or you're struggling with your performance, or you're just struggling in general, and there's a person that is of higher authority. Now, if that person is, well, I wouldn't say if that person is a bad person, I wouldn't say if he's a great person, but if that person as well, they kind of like, if that person is interested in you, it may be very easy for you to get into that trap where you fall in love, or you get connected, or you get entangled with your leader, if you will. Now, on the cruise ship, this is definitely not allowed because you're not allowed to date someone that is lower than your rank. In some cases, sometimes they don't even allow for you to date in the same department. Now, does it happen? Of course, it happens. This is the honest truth. Now, on the other hand, is you have a lot of people from all different nationalities. I am talking 52 countries on a cruise ship. Now, it suddenly happens that you start to get interested in some cultures that you have never seen before, simply because you are now exposed to that environment. Remember, the world is bigger than we actually can think, because when we're in, for example, I'm from Zimbabwe. If you're in Zimbabwe, there's some things that you haven't learned, there's some things that you haven't understood. But then when you meet different cultures, some things start to make sense, and then that can also compel you to start moving from your culture, wanting to explore a different culture. And of course, that is where other connections as well start to happen. I'm all about preaching for people to actually grow and strive and make money and have careers. But then again, you ask me the question, would you send your loved one to work on a cruise ship? Now, there is two answers to that question. It is a yes and no answer. Number one, why is it a no? I'll start with a no personally for myself, because I've seen a lot, and I've seen a lot of things happening on the cruise ship around the world, and everything happens as well. You can see that on the televisions for sure, because we've actually seen this movie happening and everybody is going crazy about it. Now, personally, I would not send my wife to work on a cruise ship, because I know that the chances of that particular person to be taken advantage of, now this is my opinion, to be taken advantage of by the higher ranking people, and possibly a good looking person or a younger looking person. I've seen a lot to such an extent that I could not send, if I had a wife, or if I have a wife, I could not send my wife to work on the cruise ship. But if you are someone that has trust in your wife trusts you, or your girlfriend trusts you, or your significant other trusts you, and if you have trust within each other, I think it is okay for them to work on the cruise ship. But if you've been cheated before, or you've gone through some kind of a situation, it's going to be very hard for you to let your wife or your significant other go, because I will tell you that things may happen, or things may not happen as well. But this is my opinion. If you're watching this and you've worked on a cruise, or if you're watching this, if you heard some rumors about the relationships on the cruise ship, please do let me know. Write them in the comments below so we can see what the world thinks about this. But I also wanted to ask you, what do you think about the movie Polygamy that is on Netflix? Now, another question that you have to ask yourself is that when your significant others go on board, or if they go on board, will they be able, and will you be able to live with no affection for 4 months, 6 months, 9 months, or up to 10 months at a time? Will you be able to do that? That's something that I also want to know in the comments below. And sometimes as well, because remember, everything that happens on land happen on the cruise ship. So parties will happen. People are gonna go for go outs. They're gonna go to these beautiful ports. They're gonna go out. They're gonna be dressed. They're gonna be amazing. They're gonna go to the crew bars. They're gonna go to all social activities, because they need to relieve the stress and the pressures that comes with their particular job. So when that happens, when there's people partying, when there's social gatherings and people are now seeing each other's culture and getting to talk to different people, different accents as well, can actually trigger someone to get into something that they didn't like. Now, I'll tell you guys, the lives on the ship is very, very fast, especially the relationships. You can meet someone in 3 days time, you would actually be married on the ship. Well, not particularly or officially married, but you could technically start living in the same cabin. Because I'll tell you, after long days and after a lot of work and a lot of pressure, sometimes it's easy to actually go and get emotional support to the person that is available to you other than the person that is miles away that you're only going to see after 8 months. I said, I am going to ask you this question. Would you let your wife or your significant other or your husband to go and work on a cruise ship? Write it in the comments below. Let me see what you're going to say. Ciao, subscribe. Now with that said, guys, I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think about the old African tradition where a man was allowed to have 2, 3, 4 multiple wives as long as he was able to take care of them all equally? And also, do you know that we still have in the Muslim culture that a man can have 2 wives as long as he treats them both equally? What do you think about that? Write in the comments below. Now, I'm going to tell you the challenges of long distance is that sometimes a person needs a physical, emotional support, and your significant other is away from you for a long time. They will not be able to give you that. So sometimes if you do connect with a person, just a genuine connection, not that you want to end up doing things, it just happens that sometimes you end up doing things on the ship. Now, does that break or make a relationship? It can or it might not break a relationship. Someone may just want to relieve some pressure. Yes, relieve. People do that. Someone might just want to relieve some pressure, but they are still connected fully and are fully in love with their significant other back home. But what about the actual relationships on the ship? Now, relationships on the ships can be very tricky as well, because if you find someone on the ship, now remember, it's 6 months at a time or 8 months at a time, and you all don't come on the ship at the same space. So you can meet someone that's just coming on board today, and you've been on board for at least 3 months. Now, when your time to go home, it means that you're gonna leave that person on the ship. Guess what happens? Now, if they're not able to control themselves, they might just get into another relationship, and the circle goes on and goes on and goes on like that. I think that is the one of the most difficult things about dating on the ship. Not even about dating or relationship, it's just even friendship itself as well. You meet people and then you leave them, and then they leave you, and the circle just continues just like that. Ciao, subscribe.